So when you are first beginning some low pressure fitness, it helps to practice the breathing pattern, kind of setting yourself up for a 3-to-1 pattern. So 3 inhalations, exhalations, followed by 1 of the expiratory apneas or abdominal vacuums. So it just kind of gives you a rhythm, and it gives you a little time to keep practicing accessing the muscles that open the rib cage, and a little time to kind of like wrap your head around when is that little motor control piece of doing the apnea going to happen. So we'll follow that pattern for these classes for the most part, and then we'll be working on breathing in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 5. So we're trying to increase the amount of exhalation that we have. That gives us more room then to create a larger expiratory apnea. And it also just helps with kind of calming the nervous system down, and a lot of kind of neuroregulation that way. Then as you get better at that, we'll work more towards in for 5, out for 6. So we're creating longer and longer breath patterns and hopefully getting a little more expansion in lung capacity. Okay, let's start in standing. I want to do a little arm warm up, and we'll kind of be reviewing the different arm positions as we warm up the arms, and that'll also get your heart rate up just a little bit since we're going to start on the ground. I think all of y'all get to watch the video. You can give me a thumbs up. A word on setting up your camera. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you can get your whole body in, that's great, because then I can kind of look at your positioning. I'll try to give you a little cues to maybe sometimes be facing forward or sometimes from the side, just so I can see your posture. The tricky part is when we go down on the ground. Usually the setup for standing and being on the ground are not the same. But what I have done is sometimes I'll just set my laptop on the ground with me and then put it back up on the table. But do what works for you for the class. That's more important than maybe if I can see you perfectly. Let you want a lot of feedback. Okay, so in standing, let's just touch base with our feet here. Anytime we're doing standing poses, our feet and ankles are going to be about hip distance apart. That's more narrow than shoulder distance. Shoulder distance is more, where you might get into for squatting and some other kind of exercises. So it's just hip distance apart. One of the things you can kind of look at is the width of your hand, about that much space in between your feet. And then I like to just bring the toes up and down a little bit, and see if once you bring all the toes up, and then see if you can put them down one at a time. So kind of spread the pinky toe wide, get the 4 toes down with the big toe up, and then spread that big toe down. So we're really kind of trying to spread that foot and get good contact with the ground. And then whenever we're practicing or standing, our knees are going to be soft, not a big bend, but also not straight or locked. So just a softness in the knees. We'll get a little bit more into the back position when we do the poses in a little bit, but I just want us to warm up our arms now. So Venus arm positions are low, medium, and high. And when you're doing these, you don't have to have the arms all the way back in line with your body. You can, but you can also bring them into the plane of what's called scaption. So a little more along the line of where your scapula would naturally be in front. And if you have any neural tension in your hands or arms, like you feel a little tingly or you feel this kind of zinging or just tension coming down your arms, then bringing the arms forward will usually reduce that. So let's just start with our palms forward in this position. And we're going to think about reaching the fingertips away from each other, like they're moving away from our body and towards the place where the wall meets the floor. And I want you to just experience that. Shoulders pressed down and wider. In a lot of exercises and postural training, we're doing a lot of pulling our shoulders back, accessing the rhomboids and pulling back. In low pressure fitness, we're really focusing on scapular abduction, moving away. And what this does is it activates the serratus anterior, which is one of the postural stabilizing muscles, and also rib cage expander. So it's going to help you with opening up the rib cage and getting a better apnea. And it's also great for shoulder stability and strengthening. Okay, so feel that. And then let's come up to the middle position and do a little bit of that reaching there again. And bring it back in and then kind of reach wide. Bring it back in, reach wide. Now we're going to go up into the higher V and just do what you can here. For some people, they start to get pinchy in their shoulders. So go to what feels reasonable without also tipping back here. And then reach like you're reaching up where the wall meets the ceiling and widening, scooping the arms up. Good. So now let's go from low to medium to high. And what I want you to think about is you're scooping those shoulder blades out away from you, up to the middle position, up to the high position, and then bringing them back down. Good. This time, let's coordinate a breath with it. So you're scooping the arms out as you breathe in. And exhaling on the way down. Good. Scooping in. And exhaling on the way down. Let's do one more. See if you can slow the breath in so that it lasts the whole time the arms are coming up. And slow the breath out so it lasts the whole time the arms are coming down. Good. Okay, Athena arms. So Venus arms are going to work a little bit more on the neurovascular and fascial lines of the median nerve, which is the one if you have carpal tunnel that's usually getting pinched. So that's a nice bonus to all of these arm exercises, is you're really working those fascial lines as well. For Athena arms, we're working more on, we're getting into a little bit of ulnar nerve pathway. And so if you get any like tingling into your pinky or side of the ring finger, then just decrease the amount of tension that you have through your arms for that. Athena is a little bit trickier. We're going to face the palms, fingers together in low Venus here. And the hands are going to be a little bit wide, shoulder distance. And let's actually start in the mid position. It's a little bit easier to conceptualize. So palms are facing forward, hands are about shoulder length, and you're kind of creating a big circle, like you're inside a barrel or a hula hoop, and you want to be, you're keeping tension out. So the elbows are kind of pressing away, the shoulder blades are widening, like we did with Venus, and the hands are pushing out. So you have tension through all of those positions. And let's just take the arms from low in that position to medium. So now we're working on shoulder internal rotation, and this is a movement that a lot of people are lacking, including myself. And then just see what you can do in terms of rotating up into high Venus without doing a bunch of funny stuff. So for me, I can't really go all the way up without having to compensate. And let's come back down. Good. Shake it out, because I know this is a lot of work. Let's come back into low Athena. And then let's coordinate with the breath just a couple of times here. So everything is pushing wide out into that circle. We're going to breathe in. And out. Good. Let's just go to middle this time, breathing in. And exhale. We'll go to high this time, breathing in. Exhale just to the middle position. Good, and let's breathe in one more time, going up to high. And exhale, all the way back down. Very good. Okay, shake that out. We're gonna go down onto laying on our back on the mats. Quick note, we will get into some kneeling positions. I neglected to suggest that you bring a pad for your knees or a towel if you need that. So if you want to take if you know, oh, I'm gonna need something under my knees, you could grab that real quick while we transition to laying on the ground. Okay. Ooh, that looks good, Patty. I can see you. Carrie looks good. Pretty good. Okay. All right. So laying on the ground. And let's have our legs bent, knees bent, feet on the floor. And at first, what I want you to notice is just kind of take inventory of which parts of you are touching the mat. So your feet are in contact, some part of your bottom. What is your low back touching? Does your mid back touch the back of your head? So how much of your spine relaxes down into the mat, and how much of your spine is maybe kind of lifted off or has some tightness pulling it away from the mat? And then in this position, we're going to work a little bit on our ribs, get in touch more with our lateral costal breathing, or expanding our breath into the side of our ribs. A little bit of loosening up to help with the postural work through the rest of the class. Okay, let's find the bottom of your rib cage here. So you're going to be feeling for this. This is called the inferior angle of the ribs. And this was in the pre-test, kind of looking at what this angle was. Some of us have a lot of tightness through the obliques, which holds this together and makes it harder for the diaphragm and rib cage to expand. And some of us, especially if we had a big baby, the ribs may be a little bit flared out and we've kind of lost a little bit of that connection. But mostly we want all this tissue to be able to move. So I want you to let's focus on the right side first, and take your fingers. Don't start right in the center because you've got a little bone there, xiphoid process. Come just off to the side, gently sink your fingers in and glide them along the rib cage down towards the side of your body. And as you're doing this, you're not trying to force it. This is a little bit more of an exploratory pass where you're just looking to feel, is there tightness? Sorry about that. For some reason I hadn't muted everybody. And that's my favorite part. So if you notice an area of a little bit more tightness, what you can do is just kind of slow down there and see if you can sink your fingers in just a little bit more. Good. Now on that right side, I want you to take the right arm out to the side and maybe even overhead in just a little bit of a V. As long as you don't have pinching in the shoulder, as long as you can have your arm relaxed out on the floor. if there's too much tension and it's pulling off, then slide it down a little bit lower. And then I want you to take your left hand and kind of go from your sternum, or the middle of the rib cage, and on an angle, glide the fingers back towards the front of the shoulder. So we're starting to loosen up the pec muscles. Good. Good. Okay, now let's go to the left side. Take the fingers, glide them under the ribs. Looking for any tight spots. Then take that left arm out to the side, up at a little bit of an angle. Right hand comes to the middle of the chest or sternum, and you're gliding that hand, kind of massaging along the fibers of the pectoralis muscle towards the front of the shoulder. Nice. Now, in this position, bring your hands onto the sides of your ribs, as much on the side as you can, as your shoulder will let you go. And as you slowly breathe in, I want you to really focus on opening the ribs into your hands on the sides. So we're going to breathe in. 4, and then exhale. And then I want you to try it again, breathing in. And exhale. And let's try an apnea here on the last breath, breathing in. You're going to exhale all the air out. At the bottom, you hold your breath, and then you lift the ribs as if you were breathing in, but no air comes in. And then you breathe and exhale. Okay, quick review of the expiratory apnea or abdominal vacuum. After you let all the air out, you hold your breath. You're really closing your glottis like you do when you're about to cough, or you could think about swallowing. That action also closes the throat. So then when you lift the ribs, as if you were breathing in and not letting any air come in, you're going to feel some resistance as you try to open the ribs, and you should feel and maybe be able to see, if you were to look in the mirror, your tummy starts to kind of draw up and into the rib cage. It's not because you're tightening those muscles, it's because you created a vacuum and the contents of the abdomen are getting lifted up. So guts, fascia, scar tissue, pelvic organs, any of those things are getting kind of drawn up as you keep pulling, and we're working on strengthening those trunk muscles that help support your posture. So let's go into our first pose in this position, which is Demeter. So from here, you're going to take your feet out so that your knees are at about a 45-degree angle. So they're still a little bit bent. Your feet are still hip distance apart, and you're going to bring the toes back towards you. So you're dorsiflexing the feet or pulling the feet towards you. And then you're going to put a little pressure out through your heels, as if you were about to try to slide the heel down, but the friction with the mat is not going to let that happen. So we've created some active tension through basically the back of our body. Then we're going to come up to your pelvis. Put your hands on your hips and your pubic bone and just rock your pelvis back and forth. So we're looking for a neutral position here. And see if you can kind of stop where you feel like your low back and your pelvis are in a neutral position and balance. So they're not totally flat against the mat, shoved down, but you're also not arched up. And then let's take our arms into a low Venus position. So that's that upside down V. And think about widening, reaching away from you, the fingers, and then come up to your head. Give your head just a little nod. So you feel a little bit of lengthening coming through the back of the neck here. So we're going to be holding all of these tension positions. It's a lot to think about, I know. We'll do 3 breaths and then 1 apnea at the end. So you're holding all of this, you're breathing in. As you breathe in, you're really thinking about the air going up into all those ribs, especially out to the side and into the back of the mat. And then you're exhaling. On the exhale, you're going to try to slowly empty the air out. And you're thinking about almost like being on a raft. Like as you exhale, everything is pulling you into 4 different directions. Head away from feet and fingertips away from each other. And then breathing in. And exhale. Last breath in. Exhale. We're getting ready. Prepare the apnea at the bottom. Hold your breath. Lift the ribs. Keep lifting. Keep opening those ribs. Opening just a little bit more. And then breathe in and exhale. Very good. Okay. From laying on your back, how did that go for everyone? Good. All right. So that was your first official pose, at least of this class. From your back, we're going to roll onto, and that was Demeter, onto hands and knees. I want you to tuck your toes under here as much as you can. This can be a little bit challenging range of motion wise. We're just going to warm up the feet a little bit by rocking your hips back and coming back up. Place something under your knees. This is a good time if you need that. And if this is too much for your wrists, you can also modify with something where you have something under the back part of the palm so your wrist is not flexed quite as much. Okay, 2 different little modifications there. So we're going to press with the arms and rock back, stretching the feet. And then I want you to push, kind of pull yourself forward and stretch out the wrists a little bit. So rocking back, toes are curled under. Pulling forward, stretching the wrist just a little bit. Let's do that one more time. Pushing back. Good. And then you're using the arms to drag you forward. So we're really engaging the shoulders here in this movement. We're prepping ourselves for Gaia, goddess of the earth. We won't make ourselves round just yet. Everything here is going to be in a neutral low back position. So I want you to just drop your belly towards the floor and tuck and round it up towards the ceiling. So basically a little cat-cow. Drop it down. That's really nice stretch if you have any surgery incisions on the front of the abdomen. Now, find what feels like a neutral position. So you're not sagging, you're You're in neutral. Someone could set a coffee cup on your back here. Toes are tucked under. You're going to turn your fingertips so that they are facing each other. Hands are under your knees. I mean, not under your knees. Don't do that. Under your shoulders. And your hands are about the width of the mat. So a little bit wide here with the elbows bent. So basically we're in that Athena position for our arms, but we're in our hands and knees. Think about pushing through your hands into the mat. So we're activating there, and then trying to spread your hands away from each other and feel what that does through your shoulder girdle. Head should be in a neutral position. Okay, and then we're going to go through our 3-breath cycle here. So we're going to breathe in. And exhale. Breathing in. Good, so widening the ribs, letting the air fill up in a big circle through your rib cage. Exhaling, on the exhale, you're kind of growing long from your tailbone to your head. Last breath, in. And out. Gently, slowly blowing all the air out. We're getting ready to prepare for the apnea. At the bottom, hold your breath. Lift the ribs. So drawing in, drawing in. You're creating the abdominal vacuum against gravity now. It makes it a little bit harder than when you are on your back. And take a breath in and exhale as you need to. Good. Okay, come on out of that position. Shake your arms just for a minute, because that can be challenging. So we're going to come back. We're going to move into Maya. So everything is the same, but we're coming down onto our forearms here. So elbows are underneath our shoulder. Hands can be on the mat. Back is still flat. Toes are still curled as you're able. And then your head is just coming straight off of your body. So it shouldn't be dropped, but it also shouldn't be lifted up looking at the wall. So you're going to be kind of gazing at the spot between your elbows, and that should give you a pretty good head and neck position. While you're here, think about pushing the feet away from you, like you're trying to reach towards the wall behind you, pushing the elbows into the mat and away from each other. And feel how that creates a lot of work all the way through the back of your body. And then breathe in. And exhale. Breathing in. And exhale. Last breath in. Exhaling, growing long, getting ready for the apnea here at the bottom. Hold your breath. Open the ribs. Keep opening, pressing through the arms, opening. Take a breath as you need to, and exhale. Very good. So we're going to come up into standing now. You can do that however feels best for you. Maybe coming up into high kneeling and then standing up. How are you guys doing? Was that amount of doing 2 in a row, that kneeling and working through the arms, okay? Challenging, but okay? All right, so standing, we're gonna start with Venus. Let's have you turn sideways so I can have a side view. Because these poses are, you're really getting a chance to work on your standing posture because we're in standing. And one of the big focuses is the relationship between the angle of the trunk and rib cage and how it's stacked on top of the pelvis. And we're always looking for length, like floor to ceiling length through the low back, and even thinking about that space between the bottom rib and the hips. This was in the pre-test, I think I put this in there, that space is getting longer, that you're almost like you've got somebody up above you picking the rib cage up and taking it out of the pelvis so that it's not compressed and sitting down in there. So we're always thinking about that getting taller and longer through that midsection. So feet, again, hip distance apart, not shoulder distance, soft bend in the knee. Now come up to the pelvis and do a little tuck forward or tuck back, tip forward. Kind of feel that. And then try to find what feels like a kind of neutral position. Like if you had water in this pelvic bowl, it wouldn't all be spilling out. Then I want you to come up to your rib cage, and we want to make sure you're not back. Rib cage should be stacked over. Your own camera is kind of a nice way to check on this. So if you were a bell, you're not tipped back and you're not tipped forward. You're stacked right on top. And then arms, let's come down to low Venus arms. Remember, they're reaching away, and then it's like you're a marionette. You've got a little string at the crown of your head that's growing that head up taller. So it's not just compressed on top of that thoracic spine. You guys look beautiful. Marcia, see if you can drop your rib cage just a little bit. So think about that bell, that you want the bell to be right in the middle. So not tipped forward and not tipped back. Good, very good. This is what happens to us. We have forward heads. We don't want to look slouch, so we tip our rib cage back. So all of these poses are really working on helping us be stacked in a neutral position and not doing all of these different postural compensations that we've all had to develop. Okay, let's do our 3-breath cycle here. Shake it out a little bit and let's set everything back up. Feet hip distance apart, softness in the knees, find that neutral pelvic position. Rib cage stacked on top, arms reaching out to the side, actively abducting the shoulders, head growing tall, and then you're going to breathe in and exhale. On the exhale, try to empty the air from the bottom up, and then breathe in, feeling the ribs open wider. On the exhale, think about growing the rib cage away from the pelvis. It's getting taller and giving you more space at your waist. Breathing in, last time. Exhale. Prepare the apnea, lift the ribs. Breathing in and exhale. Very good. From here, bring the arms forward into Athena, this front position. Hands are at shoulder height. We're at mid-Athena, pressing out. Everything is pressing out. And then while you're here, we're going to add one more component. I want you to ever so slightly at your feet and ankles. Shift your weight so you have a little more weight on the ball of your foot and your toes. And then come back to where you were. And then shift your weight so you have just a little more weight on the ball of the feet and the toes. And then come back. And then last time we're going to stay in this ever so slightly shifted forward position. And we're going to do the breath here. Bring the arms down lower if it's too hard to fold them up. Breathing in. Exhale. The exhalation is the time to keep growing longer and check in with your posture. Breathing in. And exhale. Last breath. Exhale. At the bottom. Prepare the apnea. Lift the ribs. Breathe in. Exhale and bring those arms down. It can be tiring for the arms. Very good. Let's come into Artemis, the Virgin Goddess Warrior. Just like Saint Virgin early in the morning. Okay. Feet, hip distance apart. This is a little bit of a tricky one, but it's a really good one to master, especially if you're doing other exercises, strength exercises, where you're doing hip hinging and deadlifting. Being able to be in a neutral position as you take your trunk outside your base of support is important. It also is a position where we're kind of offloading the pressure in the belly. So it gives us a chance to create even more abdominal vacuum in lifting, especially for people who might have urge incontinence or prolapse. This is a decreased abdominal pressure position because we've taken our trunk out from over the pelvic floor. So everything, we're starting here like we're in Athena with our arms all the way down low. So thumb is next to the finger and hands are in the crease of your hip, basically. So hip distance apart, knees soft, neutral pelvis and trunk, arms at this low Athena position, head growing tall. Then you're going to basically bend like that. Those hands are, you're tipping over the hands like it's a railing, and you want to see over the railing. So it's not a squatting hip hinge like you're sitting on the potty. So your bottom is not going back. The legs stay in the same position, and the top half of the body leans out over from the hips. Good. Carrie, I think you could go forward a tiny bit more. See if you can see further over the railing. You really want to see what's going on down below you. Okay, and then 3 breath cycle here. Remember, we're still engaging the shoulder blades, making them wide. You're probably looking down at kind of where the wall meets the floor. That's the gaze to keep your head in a neutral position. And then we're breathing in. And exhale. Breathing in. Exhale, keeping that length between the rib cage and the pelvis as you exhale. So you're not just collapsing here. Last breath in. And exhale. Hold your breath. Pair the apnea. Create the vacuum, lifting the ribs. Breathing in. Exhale. Very nice. Now, bring your hands down onto your, couple ways you can do this, to your thighs. We're going down to the floor and then reach one leg back. So you're in half kneeling. Alternatively, if you have good flexibility, you could reach all the way down to the floor and bring one leg back, other leg back. And then we're gonna come up to tall kneeling. So grab your pad again for your knees if you need it. This is Aura. Goddess of the morning wind or something like that. This is a really good position for opening up the front of the hip. It also makes this position very challenging for anyone who has tightness in their hip flexors, which I do. Your toes are tucked, okay? So we're still in that dorsiflexed foot position. And I want you to sit up, come up as tall as you can, and think about basically squeezing your bottom to press the hips forward and open the front of the hip without arching your back. And then stack the rib cage on top, grow tall through the crown of the head. Let's do arms in a mid Venus here. So straight out to the side, fingers reaching wide. If you have too much tension there, you can bring the hands just in front of your rib cage. And if kneeling is too uncomfortable for you here, you could do this and stand. Okay, breathing in and exhale. In exhale. Last breath, breathing in, opening those ribs. Exhaling, leaving that space between the rib cage and the pelvis. You're still tall, hips are still pressed forward. Prepare the apnea, lift the ribs. Breathing in, exhaling. Very good. Now, uncurl your feet, bring your feet off to the side and sit back. We're moving into a seated position or hestia. It can be very nice to have something to sit on for this. So whatever you were using for your knees, or if you have a meditation poop or something like that, sorry, I didn't prep you to bring those things, then that will make the sitting position usually a little bit easier. If you have the hip flexibility to sit on the floor, that's great. But it can be hard to keep that neutral pelvis and low back position without anything to sit on. Okay, Hestia has two leg positions, this crossed position, and then out in front. We're gonna do one of each. If you know that one of them just does not work for your hips, then just do two of the other one. But let's start with legs crossed. And in that leg crossed position, the feet are still dorsiflexed. And it's almost like they're kind of pulling against each other. So the legs are not just relaxed, they're active, and the feet are active. And then a nice way to start with this is to have the hands in low athena connected with the knees. This gives us a little somewhere to push and helps keep that opening and space between the rib cage and the pelvis, because this is a pose where it's easy to sort of collapse and get crunched and not have any room to create that opening, expansion, or vacuum. So you're pressing through the hands. You guys look amazing. And let's do our 3-breath cycle here. Breathing in. And then as you exhale, imagine you're exhaling from your pubic bone slowly up. So the rib cage stays lifted even as the air goes out. And then breathe in again. Exhaling from the bottom, feeling that link like someone's pulling you up towards the ceiling through the crown of your head. And then last breath in. Keeping that pressure through the arms, that helps you create the rib expansion. And exhale. Hold your breath. Create the apnea. Keep growing, keep trying to open those ribs just a millimeter more, just a little bit more open. Breathe in and exhale. Very good. Now, bring the legs in front of you. This is kind of like Demeter legs. Our knees are a little bit bent at 45 degrees. Feet are dorsiflexed and you're gently pushing away from you through the heels. Now, when your legs come here, you may feel a little like you want to dump back. Try to stay sitting up. If that gives you a pinch in the front of the hips, one, you could stack your bottom up higher. Two, you could go up against a wall. So you have some extra support and you're not working so hard through your hip flexors to maintain that position. You can also press the heels away from you a little bit more. And let's connect the hands again here. And we'll do a 3-breath cycle here. So breathing in. And exhale. And in. Exhale. Last breath. In. Opening the ribs. Widening the shoulders. Exhale. Hold your breath. Lift the ribs. Good. Keep opening. Keep drawing them open. Open, drawing that belly up, growing taller through your waist. Take a breath in. And exhale. Okay. Let's lay down on our back. You made it. We're going to take just a little time to relax. Then I was going to try to get us shorter than an hour, so not very good at that. So laying down on your back, I want you can leave your knees bent if that's more comfortable, or you can straighten them. Just take a moment. Actually, let's just take a moment with your knees bent. I want you to check in again with how much of your back is in contact with the mat. Where we're thinking back to where were the areas where you felt tension or like tension in your body was pulling you up away from the mat, and is any more of you relaxed down toward the mat now? Hopefully so. And then find a position of what feels relaxing to you. I want you to take your hands, cross them behind your head. You're going to do a little bit of calming kind of eye movements here. You're going to close your eyes. With your eyes closed, I want you to take them as if you're looking to the left as far as you can, keeping the eyes closed. And just keep looking over to the left. And then just kind of notice if you get a big sigh or a really deeper diaphragmatic breath. And then with the eyes closed, Bring them back to the center. Take them over to the right. Looking to the right as far as you can. Eyes closed, just your eyes open. And notice if you feel any shift, sigh, or really an extra second breath as you're breathing in. And then come back to your most relaxed position. We'll just do 1 minute quiet breathing, just focusing on your breath, letting thoughts that come into your mind float by. And then you can slowly come back up. Have a great day.